these big nights, they make it special for the fans, certainly, special for the players, but what's it feel like for you? Is this why you're in football with nights like this, Stamford Bridge, 30,000 fans, and Chelsea versus Arsenal?
Well, I think first of all, I know that having been here for the length of time I have, we all know the importance of the rivalry with our neighbours, and I say that in a good way. Of course, both teams want to win. I think for me, as I've always been clear about, I'm always excited about the growth around the game itself. So I'm looking forward to a packed crowd. I know how much effort has gone into that off the pitch from so many different departments to get us to that place. I'll be brutally honest, I want to be able to say I really hope we capitalise on that, because that's something that I think our rivals Arsenal have done really, really well off the pitch. So I think I want to take that as an opportunity. I think when it comes to on the pitch, listen, Jonas and I have played against each other plenty of times. I'll miss these games, that's for sure. I enjoy them. I always enjoy my time with Jonas anyway. I mean, not during the game, of course, we're rivals, but yeah, I'm looking forward to the game, to be honest.
He said exactly the same about you earlier.
Oh, did he?
He did. He said he will miss these games as well. He also described you as being very intelligent to have conversations with outside of the game. How would you describe Jonas?
Yeah, likewise. I think, don't get me wrong, I think he can be a pain in the backside on the touchline to the fourth officials, but I think he'd acknowledge that. I agree. I think off the pitch, we've had many conversations around the growth of the game, around things we might have done in each other's environments to learn from each other. I'm sure we'll do more of that after my time at Chelsea. I have huge respect for him and the work that he's done at Arsenal. He's in a great position with a fantastic playing squad, and one that, like I said, we know each other quite well, and we know the importance of the game to each other. But listen, it's business tomorrow night. Our friendship will be put aside until a future date, and it's about, for me, doing my best for Chelsea.
You say it's business tomorrow. Is there a sense of revenge for what happened in December?
Oh, I think, I talk about this a lot in the environment here, is first of all of our focus is on tomorrow, and it has been ever since the weekend. But I can accept losing. I absolutely can accept losing. How you lose is another matter, and the players are aware of that. So when it comes to the expectations from a performance perspective, the players absolutely know what you have to do when you play for this football club. And as long as the performance is there, as long as all of the things that we sign up to when we put this badge on, then I can semi-live with it. So that's the message from my end, is I expect a Chelsea performance, a Chelsea standard. I cannot control the opponent, but I absolutely would do everything to influence my own players.
Do you feel like the last fixture wasn't a Chelsea performance at all? Because I remember you coming out after the game saying you felt your side was bullied in that contest.
We were bullied. We were second best to almost everything. We deserved to be on the losing end that day by the scoreline that day. And as I said, I will accept losing. I will not accept a performance less than a Chelsea standard, no matter who plays for us tomorrow night.
A big story of the past week was player-coach relationships. We've been asking WSL managers this morning, Jonas, Edeval, Carla Ward, Lauren Smith, they've all spoken on it. I wanted to ask your view on it as well.
Yeah.
And get your personal stance.
Well, I know this is a conversation I might have had in the past. I think one of the important things to talk about is the women's game is shifting from an amateur game into a professional game. And with that, I think the reality is that in almost all areas of our game, we have to make sure that there is a minimum standard in place, whether that's, I think we have to have safeguarding, make sure that it's, accessible for each and every club to protect players. I think the challenges of coming from an amateur game to a pro game means that, the women's sport has largely been social, and I think player-coach relationships, they're inappropriate. Player-to-player relationships are inappropriate. I think that, but we have to look at it in the context of where the game has come from and say, look, we're in a professional era now where the expectations in place for players and coaches is such that all of our focus and attention has got to be on having the top standards. And that's why I've always been an advocate of making sure clubs have minimum standards, whether it's code of conduct, whether it's player safeguarding, whether it's player welfare. And I don't think it's just in and around player-coach relationships. I refer to that around all things, with where our pro game is going. And I do still think we've got a lot of work to do with that. And I hope that, as I mentioned last week, particularly with the Carney review, that we apportion even more minimum standards to put in places in clubs. Because I still feel if you were to go across not just WSL 1 but WSL 2, there's such an extreme from a club like Chelsea, might have 25 people on staff, or Arsenal, and then you go all the way down to the bottom of WSL 2. I think we need to make sure we put in robust staffing teams in and around the players to make sure that we give them safe, secure, safeguarded environments. I think that's absolutely essential.
You spoke about the standards there. Is mention of a player-coach relationship written in Chelsea's code of conduct?
I mean, I can't tell you what's the in and out of my own contract, but I know we talk about it as players and staff. The importance of creating a safe environment for our players is absolutely essential. And I think that, for me, this, as I've said before, I think it's inappropriate.
Yeah, and should it be part of a wider, WSL and Championship code of conduct, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think, but I always bring up, for me, the historical context of where the women's games come from, because I think it is important to talk from that perspective. I think women's football, as we know, has been a very amateur game for a long period of time. So, and I say this around player-to-player relationships as well, there's challenges that I think are that we're moving to a point where we should be moving past those places. And if I think about things like racism, or I think about homophobia or banter or things like that have become situations where everybody has had to almost be educated up, whether that's by HR teams or and I know we do a lot of that at Chelsea. I think it's important for people to be educated around why things are inappropriate and why we have to create safe spaces for our players. However, I think there's a bigger conversation to be had about it, but I don't think we can have the conversation without, one, the historical context, and two, what do we want to create or continue to create for safe spaces in our football environments.